Is it working? You hear me? Yes? I'm too over Apple, I'm sorry. I've got notebook and iPad with me because my English is poor and I have to look always what I have to say. And where's the, here's the presentation, 1 second. So, time is counting. 1 second, please. Sorry for that. So it's ready. So, bonjour, madame et messieurs, je m'appelle Mitya. I'm a Russian guy, but I know French a little. I'm going to tell you about my charity foundation and the reputation of the charity a little. But actually it would sound like a story, like a history. So, one of the largest natural disasters in recent Russian history happened the 6th of July 2012 in Krasnodar region of Russia in the town of Krymsk. Please do not mix it with Crimea. More than 34,000 people lost their homes, 171 persons died, and 15 disappeared as a result of flash flood produced by the heavy rains. This tragedy became a starting point for many volunteers in today's Russia and made a great impact on Russian society in a whole. But actually, and here's the picture of the Krymsk. But actually, I would like to start with events that happened a little bit earlier. At the end of 2011, Russia saw the strongest political manifestations in its recent history. Millions of Russian citizens, disappointed with unfair elections, started the so-called creative class protests. Those were numerous political events were participated by thousands of people all over the country. The authorities didn't remain passive, though. They reacted to every opposition rally with pro-presidential rally, and when opposition movement appeared, a pro-Kremlin movement was created and generously financed from the state budget. The Bolotnaya case was the culmination of that process. On 6th of May 2012, March of Millions was organized by opposition in Moscow, which was supposed to result in a rally at the Bolotnaya Square near Kremlin. That day, heavy vehicles and thousands of soldiers and policemen blocked all the streets leading to Kremlin. The state was certainly afraid of angry citizens. Nobody knows what really happened that day, but when participants marched along one of the central streets and started moving into Bolotnaya Square, a stampede began that led to clashes with the police. Authorities used this to suppress protests. More than 400 people were detained, and later several dozens of people were arrested and got all kinds of prison terms. That rally was cruelly dispersed as the state wanted to teach people in a lesson. Political protest in Russia can bring you only to jail. Since May 2012, political protests became weaker and weaker and then were practically driven out of media agenda by pro-Kremlin forces. And anybody who dared to stand against the state was constantly called from all TV screens and traitor working for the US State Department. The overall mood in society became so hysterical and society as a whole was so fragmented that any undertone disappeared. You either support state policy and the President Putin or were branded as a traitor working for the enemies of Russia. This idea has been constantly repeated in all federal media, all over Russia, and as only few independent media remained in the country, the great majority of population lives in totally aggressive environment and hears every day, we are surrounded by enemies, be vigilant, everyone around hate our great Russia. Russian society today is absolutely split. But let us go back to the flood in the town of Krymsk. Protest in Russia taught many people how to self-organize. When the terrible flood happened in July 2012, several public and political activists came to a Moscow club in order to discuss how they could help people. They decided that the next day some people would come to the observation platform of Moscow University and collect humanitarian aid that people would like to bring there. One of those who came that day was me. I brought a small package of medicines and I thought that this will be my contribution. But very soon, idea created by a small circle of activists became the largest non-political event of that year. Thousands of people kept coming to the observation platform of Moscow University and brought tons of humanitarian aid. Dozens of people provided their cars, trucks, and buses in order to bring humanitarian aid and volunteers to Krymsk, which is located 1,400 kilometers away from Moscow. Political activists started that process, but it had no political slogans and was always supported by people who otherwise would have called each other enemies. I can give you an example. At that moment, an ample debate about LGBT rights went on in Russia. Several discriminative laws were already passed, and Russian state associated itself only with Christian ethics. But in spite of all that, LGBT activists worked together with Orthodox Christian activists, their deadly enemies. They were loading humanitarian aids in the trucks. Society was also split in political basis, and every protester was stigmatized and considered as a traitor. But they still worked together with pro-Kremlin activists. One of them later became a Minister of Youth Affairs, for example. The best example of our unity at that time was like that. We were surrounded by thousands of boxes with humanitarian aid in the center of Moscow, but we had no written permission to be there. I would like to remind you that assemblies of any kind are banned in Moscow in absence of official permission. 2 people can't even stand with the political posters on the street. And when we saw police cars, we understood that our work would end soon. Some people started to cry just because they saw police. The police have never shown any human feelings, and we were sure that they came to detain us and accuse of organizing an unauthorized rally. Then something incredible happened. The police drove to us and started to unload humanitarian aid. They collected it with their friends and families. I will never forget it. People applauded and shouted to them, "Well done, guys, thank you." It was the first time for many years when the police were really with people and not against them. Excuse me for such a long introduction, but I did it in order to describe conditions in which we all live in modern Russia. At that time, we managed to collect 153 tons of humanitarian aid to the city of Krymsk and send more than 1,000 of volunteers to help people there. At 2012, I was successfully working as a photojournalist in one of the largest news agencies in Russia. I had a good salary and interesting job. I traveled all over the world and constantly covered most important social and political events. But then, in a moment, I became one of the managers of humanitarian aid program, and then a manager of a large volunteer camp in Krymsk. That was my opportunity, and I used it. When I came back from Krymsk, I left my job. I understood that I cannot help Russia and its people as a photographer. Sorry, mate. And I understood that Russian people are keen on providing help, and they can't do anything if united. Let me give you some information about problems of today's Russia. I'm not sure that you know, that Russia has one of the greatest amounts of people with cancer in the world, that we have hundreds of thousands of orphans, one of the greatest percentage of teenage suicides in the world. Russian medical care is one of the worst in the world. I've been to Somalia, and I can tell you that the hospitals there are not really different from Russian ones. More than 1 million people in Russia are HIV positive. More than 500,000 people a year have a stroke. More than 1 million people suffer from cerebral palsy. More than 13 million are disabled. Russia is at the 67th place rating based on the quality of life, 72nd place in rating based on state social expenditures, 127th place in population health rating, and 111th place in life expectancy ratings, and 134th place in male life expectancy rating. And of course, as you can see, maybe you can find Russia here. Russia has 129th place in charity development rating, just near Venezuela and Republic of Congo. So here is Russia. In simple terms, we have problems everywhere, in every sphere. The state has neither money nor political will to solve them, and society doesn't even try to solve them. In 2012, 99% of charity donations were made by door-to-door collection, when donors gave money directly to a person who needed it. Everyone who wanted to donate money had to make a choice to decide which person he or she wants to help. And when you have to choose to help somebody or to help a child, most people will choose a child. As a result, majority of Russian population, common adults like us, were left without any help from the state, which wouldn't or couldn't help everyone in need, and also without any help from society, as people were ready to help only children because they pitied them. A terrible disproportion arose in Russia. 99% of donors helped only 1% of population, which is ill children, and almost nobody donated money for the projects that suggested creation of infrastructure, let us say medical training or construction of a hospital. Everybody donated money for urgent treatment, and mostly for treatment abroad. That is why we created our charity foundation that we called Need Help, in Russian, Нужна Помощь. We wanted to solve at least some of these problems, to fight this unfair disproportion, to change people's attitude to these problems, and to help thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of people all over the country. Ours is the first charity that helps people all over the country to improve our life, to help those in need to change our country for the best without any political ambitions and on non-political basis in general. We are the first charity in Russia that raises money from common people to other charities. And we are the charity that uses a split people, and we're trying to unite them using kindness and help. What we do? We work together with leading Russian journalists and media in order to tell as many people as possible about those who need help and about effective ways to help. We do not simply collect money. For every project in our charity, we make a series of publications in different media. Thus, we not only collect money, but also promote the very idea of aid, of mutual aid. Our charity promotes infrastructural projects all over the country. Today, after 3 years of hard work, we got 70 of them, and more than 30,000, 1,000, no, I have to count, 1 second. 30,000 people all around the country is getting help from these projects. It sounds terrifying, but actually it's quite simple. We support projects that help many people on a long-term basis, and those where help is provided by professional people and not by amateurs. We do not collect money for this or that child, as 99% of Russian charities. We collect money for construction of hospitals, where thousands of children will be cured, or for training of doctors who will treat thousands of people, adults as well as children. We support projects that will remain after we are gone, that will last, that will help many people to solve their problems. We're fighting all kinds of projects, of course, not only medical. We support human rights projects, charities that help victims of violence, disabled people, orphans, elderly people, animals, ecological projects. But actually, we support all kinds of social projects in Russia. And that is why we are supported by common people, by thousands, by tens of thousands of people who know that we help solving people's problems. What is special about us? When everybody in Russia argues if Putin is right or wrong, if Mr. Navalny is good or bad, if we had to head west or east, we do not argue with authorities or policymakers. We do not try to influence politics. We do not even want to have anything to do with politics. We don't discuss anything neither with authorities nor with the policymakers. We fight another fight. We fight against hunger, death, loneliness, and pain, not against policy. Nothing can unite mortal foes in the country where society is atomized, split, and angry. Nothing except common-kind actions. And we decided to use this tool in order to unite split society. We help our people not only to solve social problems, but also to know each other better. People who have never thought of working together can write for us about the same projects. Supporters of different politics, ways of thinking, or fierce enemies can become allies in their fight for somebody's life. This strategy is working. We have already achieved a lot. We have raised more than 100,000 donations for 70 projects, and we are growing quickly. In our first year, we have collected 1.3 million rubles. In the second year, 13 million rubles. In our third year, we have already collected 62 millions. And today, we are getting close to 100 millions. But our help cannot be measured only in money. We help tens of thousands of people all around the country. For example, bedridden people who had a stroke or spinal injury can be found everywhere in Russia. People can wait for years before they get any help from the state. It may be shocking, but I met an elderly woman in Siberia who broke her hip and had to wait for 8 months before she could get a nice stool from the state. Catholic charity called Caritas helps bedridden people in Siberia. We finance their works and they help 10,000 people every year. 10,000 bedridden people in Siberia towns will get this help. Another example, there is no children's hospice in Russia to the east of Ural Mountains. Actually, there is no children's hospice even in Moscow, but there will be ready soon one, and as well the first one children's hospice to the east of Ural. Our charity finances its construction in the city of Omsk. We had already collected almost all money needed, and this year the hospice will be opened. Several hundred children will not die in suffering and will pass away peacefully. One more example. If a child brought to a hospital, his mother will be always with him, but if an orphan is in hospital, who will care about him? We finance a project that provides nurses who stay in hospitals with orphans and care about them if they were their own children. They help them not to feel lonely and lost. We also finance work of the only NGO that defends in course rights of those parents whose sons died in the army in time of peace. Yes, thousands of soldiers have died in Russian army during the last 20 years with no war in the country. Their deaths were caused by accidents, beating, and some other, they were just killed. And only one NGO called Mother's Right helps parents to protect their rights and get justice. We finance their work. Hundreds of parents can still hope to get justice. We finance only one center called Sisters, the only center in the country which helps women and children who experience sexual abuse. We finance charity service that provides psychological help for teenagers. And also we finance another service that provides psychological help for oncological patients. We help homeless people, disabled people, animals, elderly people. We help thousands, tens of thousands, as I said, people all over the country. In 2015, we understood that we couldn't do only fundraising. We also have to draw people's attention to all kinds of social problems, and then we created our own media, which is quite special and cannot be compared to any media in the country or in the world. It's 100% financed by donors of our charity foundation, who are just common people. It covers all kinds of social problems in the country, and at the same time, we summon our readers to support projects that help solving these problems. Two in one, problem and solution. An article about the homeless, and here's a solution. We make another article about the project who help homeless people to find their home and give their opportunity to our readers to solve the problem. Since we have founded our own media, we managed to broaden our audience a lot and to increase our fundraising. We have about 1 million readers a month and growing. Our main point, that human life is priceless. We should love each other and be united by our love to each other, to all people, to our country. Then everything will be okay. The only thing that can unite divided is kindness. Kindness. But to make people believe you that it's real kindness, you need to have a good and clean reputation. And that is why today I'm here. So thank you for your attention, and that is all. 19 minutes, 59 seconds. Perfect.
Thank you, Mitya. It was very important that you were so kind and you came to Riga. I know your tight schedule, and this presentation was very important because, you know, all the conferences, it's all about infotainment. But as Dagne told in the beginning, it's also about the very important content. And Mitya spoke about very important things in our lives, to be human and to be kind to each other. Now, again, some question to you. You professional communicators, how many of you have helped pro bono just for a good cause?
Wow.
No, you see, Mitya, it's not all too bad. It's not all too bad. So I think we have some questions before Ansi. I will take my authority and ask my question. Sorry, but you said you created a website that's 1 million readers a month. Yes. And are there any agencies, PR agencies, communicators who help you on pro bono basis in Moscow?
You mean in development of website or just PR agencies?
Just PR agencies about spreading about your project.
No, about spreading our project, no, we don't have those. Few of them, we tried to discuss the ways of collaboration, but no, nothing happened yet.
But still you see some progress there?
Yes, no, actually the main problem is nobody cares about another one in Russia. That is why the PR agencies, they care only about money and profit, and they're trying to find what they need, not what they can help. You see?
But you saw by the hands here in our room that we have some,
of course,
good examples.
Yes, but of course, we got good PR agencies who works with other charities in Russia, of course. Not everyone is bad. No, I am not telling that.
Ansi, your question, please.
I've been working for NGOs like 20 years, something. And my question is regarding the foreign agents, because we know many NGOs in Russia are labeled as foreign agents. How do you deal with that? Do you have any situation with the authorities in Russia regarding that?
Foreign agent is an NGO who get money from other countries and who is trying to change the politics in Russia. This one was made by Russian government to close the NGOs who they don't like USAID or any other US-based NGOs, like Soros Foundation. We are not foreign agent. I don't know why. And actually, nobody knows how to get a foreign agent, because every charity gets money from outside.
That's what I mean.
If in Russia, 100% of charities are foreign agents. You understand? If you get 1 ruble or $1 from Latvia or from Minsk or from anywhere in the world, you will be a foreign agent. Those who, if government don't like you, you're going to be a foreign agent. That's how it works. It's nothing to deal with real life. It's just politics.
So, and how about you right now? You are not targeted.
We are trying not even to stand near anyone who is called like politics. But actually with oppositions also. Because they, with governmental, pro-Kremlin or opposition leaders, for us, they are all the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Johnny, you have a question?
Well, actually, more than a question is perhaps a proposal, because, of course, the relationship, the money-based relationship makes you a foreign agent. I fully understand this. I had some familiarity with the topic. However, you offered us another very valuable currency, which is inside information on what happens in your country. And I think, and I'm speaking as a European, as a Westerner, I think Western countries absolutely need that, perhaps even more than you need money. And so I wonder if there is not something that you could do to make those stories that you publish in your online magazine available to outside readership. Because I think learning about, you were complaining about the fact that, you know, the Russian people do live in ignorance because of the polarization of the media. But believe you me, you have the same situation when outsiders look at Russia. We see a black box. Unless we go there, we do not understand. And even if when we go there, we probably do not understand as much as you do.
Yes, I understand you, but the main idea is to help Russians to wake up and to open their eyes to see what's going on around. Of course, we want everybody and everywhere in the world, we want them to know what is happening inside our country and who is living inside our country. But the main goal is to just slap the Russians and wake them up.
Okay, thank you, Mitya.